So today we're talking about feedback and honestly how honest it could be. So feedback when given to employees can mainly be sugar-coated. It can be not the full truth, and it could be like, oh, you're doing great, but in your mind you want to fire them. Like, what's the deal?
It's so much easier to say like, you're doing great, sweetie, versus like, you were late last week, you're having these problems with your work, I don't like what I'm seeing, because that's way more uncomfortable to do. And so many like times you'll see leaders just going like, oh, you're doing pretty good. I feel like good is that like secret word you can use just to like get someone off your back.
I think leaders do that because I'm going to say this because I can say this is why I don't do this. I think majority of leaders don't know what job their employees are actually doing to give proper feedback. Could you say I'm wrong?
I was going out of a different, I was thinking more like lack of care, where it's just so easy to just say, oh, you're doing good. You're doing good. You're not saying you're doing great. You're not saying, wow, like I'm really recognizing, just you're doing good. And some people will accept that, but so you would say it's just they have no clue what's going on?
Yeah, I think some leaders show up and they don't know exactly what their team members are doing. So yes, they can't give you feedback because they don't know exactly what feedback to give. And it's the honest truth sometimes. I've worked in different organizations under that kind of leadership where I'm being told left and right, I'm doing great, but my merit increases, my promotion timelines, they're not lining up, and I'm like, whoa, I wonder why. And then come to find out, like, my performance reviews are the most vague, like, documents ever. Like, I truly think some leaders do not understand what the day-to-day operation looks like, and sometimes that is a negative to have when your leader isn't aware of what you're doing, because they can't recognize the good and the bad. It might sound, oh yeah, they can recognize the bad, but hello, I just said they can't recognize the good either.
So that's really good, especially if you feel that you fall in line with that, where you're hearing you're doing good, your performance looks good, and then come review or come time for promotion or come time for talks of advancing your career, that you're getting the opposite. There's definitely conversation to be had. What would you say, especially if you've seen this, what would you recommend to people that feel like, yeah, those are the shoes I'm fitting right now?
Oh, so actually I was going to say this. I've actually, being a leader myself, I'm not going to put it all on the leaders, by the way. I think it's all the employees too. They need to provide, and they need to provide what they're doing as well. I'm going to post my LinkedIn post here, but like, if you need to provide your leadership with what you're doing, you need to talk about, you're your biggest advocate. And when you tell them what you're doing, how you're contributing, it also helps them, recognize you and provide feedback. And that's something that employees don't tend to understand. You are the one who are going to brag about yourself the most. No one around you will. Some leaders have like 10 to 15 employees under them. That's a lot of people to manage, And if they have to memorize everything for everybody, they're going to miss a whole lot. So yes, do some leaders lack ability of knowing what their team members are doing? Yeah. But do some team members lack the ability of telling their leaders what they're doing? Yeah. So it's something that happens with both sides.
Yeah. No, I mean, now that you say that, there definitely been in the working game for quite a long time, but there's definitely been like sometimes I can relate to where I thought I just had my head down, absolutely grinding through things I need to do, and even going out of my role. And yeah, I didn't communicate that, and then come months later, oh wow, you did that? That's neat. You're doing good.
One more shameless plug here with my other LinkedIn post. I think for leaders now, I'm gonna go back a little bit. Intent matters too. Like, it's easy if you truly in your brain and your heart and your overall soul want your team member to improve, your intention is pure, meaning anything you say to them is constructive, and they should be able to, the words behind it is positive. So what you say, exactly saying like, hey, your numbers are low, it seems like you're not really present, it seems like you're not doing XYZ, and here's an action plan, here's the feedback, here's that. They want you to improve. They're not just telling you to bring you down. They want you to improve because that's what they overall want. You shine, they shine. And that's something that employees need to understand as well with their managers, is their performance rating is based on how you guys are doing, and also employee surveys of how, morale, stuff like that.
So just to advocate for the employees here, if they know they have a review coming up or a meeting with their leadership team or their direct manager, how would you have them come to that meeting? Like, how would they prepare? Like, I know, like, job interview, everyone talks about that all the time. You dress nice, you bring the resume, you have a question ready to go at the end. But no one really talks about for these meetings with your managers, whether it be annual review or a quarterly review. How would you come prepared, especially to show your work?
So I always tell my team, and actually I have a team member right now who documents everything they do. They will pass gas and say, "Excuse me," and write that down. I think documenting everything you do is true, because no matter what, your leaders will determine what will stick and what doesn't, but at least it's on there for them to review. Because if something is missing and then later on they're like, well, why didn't I know this before? Like, then, you know, that you don't want to hear that. So document everything, big wins, small wins, no wins. Because the thing is, like, as long as you try, I think intent matters as well with, you know, attempts of what you're trying to portray. So I would say if you're going into a performance review conversation, I think you also had the responsibility and the job to prepare for that documentation wise on what you did during the first 2 quarters, 3 quarters, or overall quarters for the year. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's really smart, especially if you want them to see, especially if you are a good employee with lots of contributions and don't want to be looked over. That's so smart. I think the biggest takeaway, I didn't even think it was going to go. I feel like we took a turn, but I want to stay there. If you're just hearing like, you're doing good, that's not good. One would say like that should ring some alarm bells, and they're not seeing what you're doing. Maybe if they bring up some things that are great, or wow, you really showed improvement here. But if you hear you're just doing good, would you say that is actually bad?
Not for me, because I'm actually good. Like for me, like, I don't think I can't really. It's gonna sound so cocky, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I've never had. Oh no! I've always got the performance review I deserved, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So. But also, I'm document heavy too, and that's something that I, preaching to everyone. Document everything. Document your wins.
I was impressed right there. I saw you were gearing up to say you've never had a bad one, and you changed that real quick. And there was definitely some reflection there. I saw it in your eyes.
Not reflection. It was more of it got fixed.
I think that. My biggest takeaway is if you are in a review, if you are getting feedback and there's nothing that's personalized, there's nothing that highlights maybe your greatest success through the review period, you may be in trouble, whether that be your documentation or whether that be the direct manager's understanding of what you do. I think the word good is bad.
Okay. I want to talk about this. I feel like we forgot this topic. What about the employees who get the harsh feedback but can't see through their own kind of like their own flaws? Like, they think they're perfect. They don't take it. Like, you can tell them you need to have this by this time and this is how you do it. And they tell you the Dow is at 50,000.
My eyes are like I'm seeing new. I think if you are getting told that there are improvements to be made, or that you're on the flip side, like, wow, you have really made contributions outside of your role, you're in luck, because you have a leader that cares, someone that actively sees what you're doing, whether it be great, whether it be underachieving. You have someone that sees it and is willing to guide you.
Okay, but they're not accepting that feedback. You've never dealt with employees who can't take feedback, like they're just unwilling to accept it?
I have, but I will say again, the blessing is you have someone that cares. If I give you a gift, but you're not willing to look at my hands and take the gift, guess what you're not getting?
So what are you telling that? This is not advice to the leaders. What are you going to tell the leaders? Like, oh, a leader comes to you saying, "Hey, it's not getting through them. It's not getting through them. My feedback. I'm being honest. I'm being productive. I'm providing action plans. It's not getting to. They're not performing to the level. You're gonna tell them you're giving them a gift. Is that what you're telling me?
All right. I'll say again, kudos to you for being a manager that cares and looks at that stuff. But if they're not getting it at all, again, we had a good talk. What was that, a couple weeks ago, about the personality of some team members and how that can't be taught. You can bring a horse to water, you can't make it drink. If they truly, despite your multiple attempts or different ways to show them the ways they can improve, if they will not accept that, then some things can't be changed, and that is a really big negative.
Okay, so basically feedback goes both ways. It's in the leaders, the ball's in leader's court, but also the employee has to be able to provide that information as well. So I think it's a fair game for both of them. So I think that's a good closing argument for this topic.
Yeah, I think we started this race, steered way left, and I like where we ended up.